those of you who are listening, welcome. All right. Thank you for being a part of our experiment. My name is Angie Fife. I'm the Executive Director for the ICLEI USA office. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the very first silent session of the 2024 ICLEI World Congress. I hope you all can hear. Channels are up here on the left. So English 17, Portuguese 16, Spanish 18, and we'll get started. So welcome, we're here to celebrate ICLEI membership. This is the reason that we're all here, is to celebrate this incredible network and the power of the network that brings it all together, that makes things happen on the ground in communities each and every day. Oh, I don't have any sign language. So we're going to introduce our first two panelists, have them introduce themselves and say a little bit about their community, where they're from, what sort of challenges they're working on, what they're hoping to get out of their ICLEI membership. I want to say that at ICLEI USA, we have the largest membership group in the entire ICLEI Global Network. We're very proud of that. Thank you to our US members. Thank you to our US membership team who are here. Y'all do amazing work together. One of the highlights of my day, every day, I open my computer and the first thing I see is a Salesforce feed. So we use a tool called Salesforce, which is our customer relationship management tool. And we have information about all of the cities that we're working with in the US. And then I get to see what sort of activity has gone on the day before. Who did Jake talk to? Who did Madison talk to? The 14 people that Kale talked to for the day. And it's always so inspiring to see all of the work that's going on in communities of every size, shape, capability, wherever they are in their journey. They're actively working to address the climate crisis. So thank you for all the work that you do. So we're going to have, as I mentioned, two panelists who will introduce themselves, talk a little bit about ICLEI membership, why they joined the network, what they're working on, and then we'll have some questions from the audience, and then we'll switch. And we've got three other panelists who will come up. So we have a total of 90 minutes still, I believe. So for our first two panelists, I'm going to ask Minister Moxie to go first, introduce herself, and tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Okay, so I am, they call me the Honorable Ginger Moxie. I'm a cabinet minister in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I also, can you hear me now? Okay, good. So I'm a cabinet minister in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I would have found out about ICLEI through the Cities Forward initiative. And the Cities Forward initiative was launched back in April 2023 at the Cities Summit of the Americas. And it is an initiative that is focused on sustainability, resiliency, and inclusiveness. And it involves the U.S. State Department, ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, the Institute of the Americas, as well as Resilient Cities Catalyst. And from that moment, that's when I connected with ICLEI. And I would have applied for the city of Freeport to be paired with a U.S. city that would cause us to strengthen our communities when it comes to resiliency. Now, the thing about the Bahamas and other Caribbean countries is that we are so vulnerable to climate change. My island in particular, Grand Mom Island, was devastated by many, many hurricanes. And the most recent one would have been Hurricane Dorian. Now, we've experienced Hurricanes Francis and Jane and Wilma and Floyd and Matthew. And so we consistently are in recovery mode. And so what I thought was important, number one, I was appointed to be the chair of a cabinet subcommittee called Innovate 242, where we're looking to establish the Bahamas as the center of innovation for the Caribbean. but also Grand Bahama Island, because of what we've been through and the fact that we are always in recovery mode, to become the center for sustainability. And with that, I feel that it's an ideal opportunity for various countries in the region, as well as various organizations, to utilize Grand Bahama as a platform for research and development when it comes to climate change, resiliency, adaptation, mitigation. And so that is a part of what I find so attractive about ICLEI, because they've been so supportive in all of our initiatives that we're working on together. I see Cale shaking his head over there, and then you have Rocio, and you have Louis, and then you have Edgar, and they've just been phenomenal. I've also been elected as the vice president of the REXCOM for Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. And so with that, we're looking to establish a Caribbean office of ICLEI on Grand Bahama Island, because I believe it's an ideal platform to do all of the wonderful work that we do together. And so I think is that good enough for you?
That's amazing, Minister.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes. All right, let's hand over the mic here and have Mayor introduce himself and tell us where you're from and what you're working on.
Boa tarde a todos. Quero agradecer ao ICLEI pelo convite, a todos que fazem o ICLEI, não só no Brasil, mas em todo o mundo. E eu sou prefeito pela 4ª vez de um município que tem 273 anos, chama-se Brejo da Madre de Deus, no interior de Pernambuco, nordeste do Brasil, localizado no agreste pernambucano, conhecido por sua rica cultura, legado histórico, belezas naturais e biodiversidade. Com quase 800 km², nosso município é composto por uma população de mais de 48 mil pessoas, bem diversificada e que valoriza profundamente suas tradições e também o meio ambiente. A economia local é predominantemente agrícola, com destaque para o cultivo de hortaliças, frutas, como morango. Somos o maior produtor de morango do estado. E a produção de artesanato, de palha, pedra, couro e material reciclável. Quando se trata de desenvolvimento sustentável, nossa prioridade é a preservação dos recursos naturais, especialmente o ar e a flora, recursos vitais para a nossa agricultura e para o bem-estar da população. Para que possam entender a magnitude de nosso desafio, temos nesse momento 2 decretos de emergência reconhecidos pelo governo federal, um para a estiagem e outro para as chuvas intensas. Bem, nesse sentido, estamos focados em implementar práticas sustentáveis, promover a educação ambiental e investir em infraestrutura que fomente a prática do ecoturismo em nosso território, como as obras de acesso à nossa zona da Mata Atlântica preservada. A gestão eficiente dos resíduos sólidos e a busca pela neutralização das emissões também são pilares fundamentais em nossa agenda de sustentabilidade. Nosso objetivo é garantir que o desenvolvimento econômico ocorra de forma harmoniosa com a preservação ambiental, assegurando um futuro próspero, sustentável e para as próximas gerações.
Thank you so much. And apologies to our audience. Hello? Okay. Apologies to our panelists here and to the audience. Thank you for bearing with us. This is all about resilience, right? And so here we are. We carry on. I appreciate that. So I wanted to wrap up our first 2 panelists with just a follow-up question to ask them Um, what have they already benefited from in terms of being a part of the ICLEI network? And what are your hopes for the future? What else can ICLEI do to help you to be successful?
Okay, so the ICLEI network has already, I think, tremendously benefited our efforts. As a part of the city's Forward initiative, we have selected a revitalization project in an area that is called the ghetto. It's an impoverished community, and we are looking to transform that into a model community with sustainable home models. We want to have an agri-tech farm with farming solutions. We want to be able to ensure that the people of those communities are able to thrive, because with Hurricane Dorian came so much devastation that, again, people continue to recover. So what we do have is a lot of blue tarps that are still on the rooftops that we want to turn into, remodeled, refurbished homes. And so with ICLEI, we are working on this together, side by side, and we're working closely with our new charter city, Coral Springs. So we've been there, they're right in the house. Say hi. So they're here with us today, and we've been partnered with them and working very closely together to ensure that we're able to do this. And so we just signed our charter agreement. I think it was May 24th. And so we're really, really excited about that. The next steps is that they will be visiting Grand Bahama Island with us. And of course, we'll be visiting Coral Springs as well. And we're looking at how we ensure that the community is revitalized. We want to ensure that, again, it becomes a smart community with, with the master plan that we want to include for that community. And so I believe that the ICLEI membership has already proven to be very valuable. We also want to include ICLEI in the overall Center for Sustainability that we have, not just for Grand Bahama Island, but for other islands of the Bahamas, other countries in the Caribbean, so that we are able to help each other. Because again, when we talk about climate change and the impact of it, we have to be our sisters and brothers keepers, because it affects all of us. It impacts the world. And so we want to play our part on Grand Bahama Island to be that platform again. And we want, with our new soon-to-come Caribbean office of ICLEI on Grand Bahama Island, to be able to invite the world to Grand Bahama, where we can partner, we can work on sustainable model solutions. We have coral reef restoration initiatives that we have going on right now on Grand Bahama Island. We're also trying to repopulate the mangrove system, because again, we are an ocean, ocean islands within oceans, and we look to see how we are able to sustain this. And we are going to need all of us from the various ICLEI regions around the world to become a part of it. And so I look forward to how we're going to strengthen the relationship, look forward to how we're going to utilize the various programs to grow the ICLEI network. The Caribbean, I would say why I'm so focused on having a Caribbean office is that while we do have the region of Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean, as far as I'm aware, only has 2 members, and that's Jamaica and now Grand Bahama Island. So we want to ensure that that's increased, because again, it's one of the most vulnerable, regions in the world when it comes to climate change. And so we are going to strengthen that. We're going to strengthen that with our membership. We're going to strengthen that with the fact that I'm vice president, a part of the REXCOM of Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. and we're going to do our part. So I'm calling on all of you to embrace this new agenda for strengthening the Caribbean region, and that we will continue to do our part throughout, I would say, the islands of the Bahamas and the Caribbean. One thing that I want to say also is that, tourism is our #1 industry. We have 700 islands in the Bahamas, believe it or not. So people think it's just the Bahamas and it's one island. There are 700 islands and keys, and tourism is our #1 industry. ICLEI focuses on sustainable tourism. I hear a lot about, the various aspects of resiliency, sustainability, inclusiveness. What I haven't heard spoken about a lot is sustainable tourism. That's our livelihood. That's our way of living. Hospitality is our #1 industry. And so through our Center for Sustainability that we're developing, we're going to focus a lot on sustainable tourism. We're going to focus on sustainable master plan development. Because again, how are we developing moving forward? We now have to build more resiliently. So when these hurricanes come and we're, devastated, we have to again recover and rebuild. What type modeling, what type of materials are we using to build? What types of building codes are we utilizing, because we are so impacted by hurricanes and other climate change initiatives. So it's important, again, for us to come together to be a part of the solution, and I just look forward to the support of all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Moxie. What a great call to action. I don't know if we're supposed to applaud silently, but we saw the sign folks do that this morning. So thank you so much. Over to you, Mayor. What other thoughts do you have for us around ICLEI membership?
Dos principais desafios que enfrentamos em Brejo da Madre de Deus é a preservação de nossos recursos naturais enquanto promovemos o desenvolvimento econômico. Para enfrentar este desafio, implementamos uma série de iniciativas focadas no fomento ao ecoturismo, que tem se mostrado uma estratégia eficaz para aliar conservação ambiental e geração de renda. Primeiramente, implementamos a infraestrutura de acesso à nossa reserva particular do patrimônio natural, a Mata do Bituri. Um bom exemplo é que pavimentamos cerca de 9.000 metros quadrados de uma estrada vicinal, conhecida como Zé Buchudo. Recentemente assinei a ordem de serviço para início das obras de acesso a um dos nossos patrimônios naturais mais valiosos, a Serra da Prata, que ainda contará com uma praça de recepção aos turistas e um mirante voltado à cidade. Além disso, investimos na capacitação da comunidade local para atuar como guias turísticos em atividades relacionadas ao ecoturismo. Oferecemos cursos de formação em turismo sustentável, primeiros socorros e interpretação ambiental, capacitando os moradores para receber visitantes de forma profissional e segura. Isso não só gera emprego e renda, mas também fortalece o senso de pertencimento e a valorização do patrimônio natural e cultural. Uma iniciativa que destaco é que criamos eventos e festivais que celebram a cultura local e atraem visitantes, como o Festival do Morango, que teve sua primeira edição realizada no ano de 2023. Esses eventos não só dinamizam a economia local, mas também reforçam a importância da preservação e conscientização ambiental e cultural. Por fim, promovemos a neutralização das emissões de carbono das principais festividades que realizamos, como o Festival do Morango e as festividades da Semana Santa 2024, além de termos neutralizado o primeiro encontro nacional do ICLEI Brasil. Essas iniciativas integradas têm como objetivo transformar Brejo da Madre de Deus em um destino de ecoturismo sustentável, onde a conservação ambiental e o desenvolvimento econômico caminham juntos, beneficiando toda a comunidade.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for these incredible, inspirational stories, and for the call to action to our audience here to join ICLEI, to be a part of the movement. It's interesting to see the parallels in terms of tourism and resilience around economic issues. So let's thank them once again, and they're going to leave the stage, and we're going to have 3 more panelists join us. Yeah. Thank you. And we'll have Councillor from Australia come up, our Commissioner from Coral Springs, Mayor Perez. Great. Welcome to the stage. Great. Would you like to use it? Absolutely. So we'll have Councillor go first. Sorry, we only have a handheld microphone. So, all right. I'll let you introduce yourself, tell us about the community that you're from, and what you're working on through ICLEI membership.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Councillor Alida McKern, and I'm from Australia, from Melbourne, in a city called the city of Banyule. And Banyule means hill in our First Nations language of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung. And in Melbourne, we start every presentation with an acknowledgement to our First Nations people. And I'll do that today. I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of the land in Melbourne, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. In our city, we also express a diversity and inclusivity statement. It used to be that before every council meeting, a prayer would be said, not unlike something like the Our Father prayer, which many of you, if you're Catholic, would be familiar with. In Banyule, we talk about our belief in diversity, inclusivity, access for all, regardless of creed, religion, nationality, sexuality, age and ability. This is important for us to acknowledge. In Australia, we are a multicultural country. We are represented by more than 270 ethnic groups, and that's quite significant. How we manage to keep it all together and stable is one of the remarkable qualities of Australia as a country. Banyule itself, just to give you a little bit of background, is what we call a middle ring city. Melbourne itself is a very large, sprawling city, not unlike Sao Paulo. However, the population difference is just over 5 million people for Melbourne, and one day we probably will be a lot like Sao Paulo. We have a projected population of 10 million. So we are situated about 7 kilometres away from the centre of Melbourne. We have various socio-economic levels within our city. Some of the wealthiest people in Melbourne living in beautiful homes on quarter-acre blocks, and perhaps just a kilometre away from them, not unlike what you see here in Brazil, you have some of our poorest people in Melbourne. We are also blessed in Banyule with terrific biodiversity and natural environments. 3 of our boundaries with other municipalities, and I'll just say there are 79 municipalities in Victoria, which is our state. 3 of our boundaries are on waterways, rivers and creeks, which is a small river. And they are clothed in native bushland. Our population is about 130,000 in our city, and our budget is $180 million a year, largely sourced by rates. We don't have much industry, and we certainly are not a tourist city. So residential rates is our main source of income. I just thought I would mention, this is my first term as a councillor, and I've been in this position now nearly 4 years. I became a councillor and was elected as a councillor based on my priorities. And the priorities align with a lot of what ICLEI is about. One was to protect and enhance our natural environment, particularly given the number of waterways, tree canopy and parks we have, which is the main reason that people choose to live in our city. The other, I pledged to protect and enhance our built environment. We have beautiful heritage homes, heritage civic buildings, and beautiful neighbourhood character areas. But like a lot of cities, a lot of our urban world, we are under pressure to make a lot more affordable and diverse housing. That is a key priority, not just for local government, but also state and federal government. The other priority that I ran on was more meaningful community engagement. And what I've been hearing in this conference so far is the importance of connecting with community. So, community engagement, and what I've tried to do in my term as a councillor is to create more opportunities, more points of contact between our community and our council. I think that's actually one of the priorities that a politician has, to actually find more ways for people making policy decisions to connect with community so that they understand what it is the community believes is important for our society. That is something that I have worked quite hard on by introducing what we know as town hall meetings for my particular area, and I'm responsible for 13,000 people, bringing our Chief Executive Officer and senior directors directly in touch with our community, and having Q&A panels, question and answer panels, where residents can directly ask our executive team, why aren't we doing more about climate change? Why didn't that park bench go in to the park next door when I asked about it 6 months ago? Why is there still dumped rubbish in the street and I asked for that to be removed 2 months ago? So it's an opportunity to ask big questions, small questions, and for residents to raise initiatives. That level of direct contact with staff and follow through with the community has meant that we've seen numerous resident-led initiatives. Things like new dog parks, improving our parks, more benches in parks, have all been resident-led due to having community meetings. And how do I advertise these community meetings? Through things like newsletters and my Facebook page. Always I am looking for ways to bring more community thoughts, concerns, issues, matters right to the face of our technical decision makers. I think that's a very important role that politics has to play. We heard earlier in the plenary that climate action and sustainability action is not just about technical decision making, and I agree. I actually think we have a lot of the technical answers within our community. What we need is more political willpower and more people who actually understand the need for environmental action. Mine is a relatively conservative community, so that means that of the 9 councillors in our city, there are at least 4 who consistently vote for only action on rates, roads and rubbish. But I think, given the people who are here at this conference, you would all agree that in local government we need to be delivering on a lot more than rates, roads and rubbish if we are going to have a sustainable environment and future for generations to come. And that's why we need more progressive politicians who actually stand for community values and not just a political career. My background is in urban planning and landscape architecture, and I have been very fortunate to bring those technical skills to the realm of politics. I would now like to just spend a little bit of time on an initiative that ICLEI has helped us with, and that is an initiative to introduce the first urban food strategy to our city. Oops, I'll just go back, didn't see that the slide was there. We had an interesting situation as part of my commitment to environment. I tried to run an initiative with my fellow councillors about introducing an urban food strategy, and what would the aim of that urban food strategy be? To address food insecurity. I mentioned earlier that we have one of the poorest areas in all of Melbourne, in West Heidelberg, in our city, where many people go hungry every night and are food insecure. That was one of the aims of the urban food strategy. Another one was to connect communities, to have more urban farms within our community where people can engage on matters around food. And the third was another important one that didn't necessarily affect just our city. Melbourne as a metropolis measures 100 kilometres across. That is a very sprawling city, and it's because of the Great Australian Dream, where people have always wanted a single dwelling on a quarter-acre block. We can now no longer afford that luxury. It has not only consumed an enormous amount of land, requiring infrastructure like public transport, roads, schools, hospitals to serve that sort of area, but has also eaten into our food bowl. We recently experienced what a pandemic like COVID can do for a city. It can cut imported food supply. Our shelves in our supermarkets were empty for the first time that many of us born in this generation would be aware of. Now, we have an urban growth boundary that is set within the Melbourne planning scheme. However, politically, that has shifted out now on at least 2 occasions, because politics can change everything. Now, can you imagine having to import most of your food to feed a population of over 5 million people if indeed you cannot rely on a local food bowl? Melbourne used to be supplied by most of its food locally, and so it should. We have excellent agricultural rich soil to provide food, but that is going under housing development. It is being rezoned for housing development. And my primary aim to actually implement this urban food strategy was to advocate for protection of our urban food bowl, to protect against future adversities and pandemics. So whilst it's not on our boundary, as one of our speakers was saying, our Minister Ginger, we are the keepers of our brothers and sisters. And I think that is really important about us being members of ICLEI. To be honest, this is actually our second membership with ICLEI. Our officers decided some years ago to stop the ICLEI membership because it was felt that we had the knowledge and we didn't need the membership. The conservative element of our politicians also helped to stop that membership. when I came into the position as councillor, as chair of the Banyule Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee, and with the assistance of our colleague councillors such as Councillor Amanda Stone from the City of Yarra, I advocated for us to rejoin ICLEI. Not necessarily because we need so much technical support, but because, as was mentioned earlier, we have a responsibility greater than our 63 kilometres square. We have a responsibility to other parts of the country and other parts of the world. And by being here, I can actually be that conduit of information from the Bahamas, from Brazil, from all parts of the world, and take that back to our country so that we broaden our oversight beyond our own individual borders. And so, our urban food strategy, introduced last year, it has already started to pay off. It speaks to these themes of the ICLEI conference. As mentioned earlier, it is a first for our council, and it was designed as a co-design project with our community. Over 700 members of our community were involved in developing this strategy. So we know we got it right. Everything from surveys that you could do online to kitchen table talks. I ran one myself at the local establishment, which in Aussie lingo means the local pub. And I had 12 people sit with me and we discussed what was important to an urban food strategy for the city of Banyule. We embedded principles that we are now implementing through a working group. Needless to say, the strategy was adopted by the council. But I tell you, when I first mentioned the idea of an urban food strategy, none of my councillors were in agreement. So I couldn't go through the door, I had to go underground. And I approached the Chief Executive Officer directly because I knew that as a technician, she would understand the value. She brought in some senior directors. I prepared a discussion paper, a technical paper on why we need this urban food strategy. And that is beyond the realm of the usual duties of a councillor. So I think that as a politician, you get to mould what your work and what your contribution is going to be. You don't need to be confined by a job description because the reality is there is no job description. And these are some of our priority themes, which I have more or less discussed. Now, this is the beauty of having strategic policy in place. The gentleman on the right is the president of a local community group called Local Food Connect. He actually doesn't live in our city. He lives in the city next door called Nillumbik. He and his group were awarded a $200,000 grant, which is about $300,000 in US dollars, to build an urban farm in the city of Nillumbik. Do you know what happened to that grant money? It went to council to be endorsed in the city of Nillumbik, and the Conservative councillors turned it down. He rang me because he was part of my working group and said, Alida, I've got a big problem. I've got $200,000 to spend and nowhere to spend it because the council next door refused it. Can you help me? Can I help you? I went straight to my colleague officers who I knew were on board. I developed relationships with them and said, right, Joe, Danielle, what can we do with this money? And what we did was we approached one of the poorest high schools in our city, Bandura Secondary College, which was losing students rapidly. And they actually introduced an urban agriculture program. That money has now gone to that school on the basis that it will include a community farm and community education process for growing food in an urban environment. These students didn't know what an eggplant was, didn't know where eggs came from, even though they're multiculturally diverse and many of their parents would have come from agrarian cultures. In one generation of migration to Australia, they've lost all that knowledge. They're now relearning it. And what we're finding is that they want to take on jobs in urban agriculture. Yes, okay. So I'm happy to chat with any of you after today's session about how we did this, and I'm also happy to share some of the community information newsletters that we have and I've brought to give to you to show you how we do things in Banyul. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. So much to share. I hope folks will grab you at the break. Let's move on to Commissioner. So Commissioner, tell us about where you're from, what you're working on.
Hi everyone, how are you all doing today? I am Commissioner Nancy Mateo Bowen. I use she, her pronouns. I am ecstatic to be here today. I represent the beautiful city of Coral Springs, Florida. It is a vibrant community in Broward County, and we are made up of 134,000 residents. And with that being said, we pride ourselves with bragging around our top rated schools, our vibrant community, our multicultural community. It's very, very diverse, and also ensuring that sustainability is a priority. We have been awarded several accolades around our parks and our programming in our parks, and that is something that we're very, very proud of. We are also in close proximity to the Everglades, so you have an opportunity to enjoy urban living as well as embracing the natural wonders of Coral Springs. I made history in 2020 when I became the first Black woman, Haitian American, to serve on the commission and really championing environmental sustainability. I ran on three prongs. That was environmental sustainability, economic growth, and public safety. And so within, as you had mentioned, Counselor, it's super important to elect individuals who prioritize sustainability. I also was the first environmental scientist to sit on the commission, and still to today. And with that being said, my 90-day challenge to myself was ensuring that we created a priority list, and on that priority list was creating a sustainability office. And within that 90 days, we created our sustainability office and hired our first ever sustainability manager, Andrea Lamartre. She's back there. I can't take all the credit. She makes our city look so amazing. And with that being said, we were... I'm good. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. And I am going to list off a lot of the things that we've been able to accomplish within our sustainability office, and then go into how ICLEI has been such a great partner with us. We have been able to, one, establish a sustainability office. We've been able to integrate within our budget. Integrate within our budget and our strategic planning to make sure that sustainability is in every aspect of a governance in our policies. So if a new developer wants to come into our community, they have to either propose a sustainability plan, not a plan, but ensure that they're highlighting sustainability in their project. We also have the opportunity to coordinate interdepartment and departmental coordination. We've moved away from single-use plastics in our public use facilities. So if you attend a programming, city-held program, you'll see reusable items such as forks, biodegradable plates, napkins, etc. We also implemented, the first time ever, a sustainability action plan that lays out this foundation of our initiatives, data, and metrics. We've updated our stormwater infrastructure, master plan around our flood resiliency, and identified vulnerabilities, which is making sure that we're more resilient because of our impacts to climate change. We also really understand that climate change is a threat multiplier, so we look at many different ways for us to address climate change, whether that's through affordable housing, whether that is the businesses that come into our community, et cetera. We're looking at sustainability from a holistic approach. We reinstated responsible material management, including recycling, first time ever composting, an education program to ensure that people are recycling correctly. You have the program, but if you don't recycle correctly, then you're contributing more into our landfills. And what we want to do is reduce the waste in our landfills. And we also are looking into energy efficiency technology in our buildings, so automated lighting, implementing LED in our parks and our tennis courts. And pickleball is a new phenomenon in our community, so we're making sure that we're capitalizing on that as well and making sure that we're integrating solar in our parks. And it's literally called Solar in Our Parks. We've doubled the size of our organic pesticide-free community garden in 2023, which is led by a group of volunteers. I go out there every first Saturday of the month to really decompress. And then lastly, we want to be noted as a Tree City USA. And so I can't take credit of this work. We have amazing staff. Andrea has been working very, very diligently to making sure that we meet those metrics and also holding us accountable. I would like to say that I am prideful that I'm honored and also privileged that we are a member of ICLEI because of the ability to collaborate with other like-minded individuals, right? We all see the trends globally around more conservative view sets and individuals really claiming that climate change is a myth. Right? I live in the state of Florida, and I kid you not, all the work that we are doing may potentially be pulled away from us because of preemption. And for those who don't know, preemption is basically our state legislature mandating that we have to fall in line with their parameters rather than us who know our communities the best and say that what you are initiating is no longer valid. And so we are working really, really hard to find loopholes to exist in a state that does not hold our initiatives as priority. And so being here is a testament to the resilience and the initiative to be as progressive as we can be to really ground us in this work. And sometimes it's daunting, but I'm very, 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 very privileged to work with a team that believes in this work. And then I want to mention that we use ICLEI to assist us with creating to monitor our GHG admissions. As I mentioned, our sustainability office is very, very new. We're building that foundation, and you all are being very helpful in making sure that that foundation is solid. So in case I leave, Andrea leaves, we have something to build from, right? Because this is a legacy. This is something we want to continue. And so we are so happy that we've been able to collaborate with Freeport, Bahamas. Hopefully we all get to take a trip to the Bahamas and see all the great work that they're doing, and also be a thought partner with our sister city and bring what they're doing from the Bahamas to the city of Coral Springs and vice versa. We just signed our charter, and a priority around that is resiliency. What happens after an emergency, recovery? What does that look like? And we're having conversations of what shelters look like. Are we using our schools? Are we using community? Are we using parks? So those are conversations we want to continue having. Also, sustainable development. Our downtown is booming right now. We have CRA dollars to really implement we have an opportunity to implement sustainable practices. And we want to make sure that if we see Bahamas, who is highlighting their sustainable tourism, because we want to be a destination city because we have the Everglades, we can look to the Bahamas and say, they're doing this, why can't we? And then I want to end on this note. Sorry, I'm pulling my notes and making sure that I'm saying everything. I juggle multiple identities. And to your point, Minister Ginger, I'm of Haitian descent. The Caribbean is often left out of these conversations. And being able to bring that identity into the space, as well as carry the identity of as being an American and living in a U.S. city, I want to make sure that my residents don't have to worry about their families abroad, right? That is my sole priority. I also want to make sure that my residents can feel safe in the city that they live in. And so being able to juggle those dual identities make this work even more impactful. So I look forward to building with you all. I look forward to being a thought partner with you all. And I look forward to being a proud member of ICLEI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Amazing. I will say Florida is among the states that we work with where we see the most collaboration between local governments. I think it's some of that resistance, some of that need for peer exchange and so forth. So really glad to hear you highlight that. Okay, last but not least, handing over to Mayor Perez.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Gracias por este espacio. Gracias a ICLEI y a todo el equipo por darnos la posibilidad de compartir la experiencia del municipio que me toca conducir, que me toca gestionar. Compartir ustedes, mi nombre es Pablo, yo llevo adelante una gestión en la municipalidad desde el 2015. La ciudad es la ciudad de Pérez, es una ciudad de la provincia de Santa Fe, de República Argentina. Para tener una referencia un poquito más clara, está pegadito, somos el área metropolitana del Gran Rosario, a lo quizás Rosario, donde nació Messi, estamos pegaditos a la ciudad de Rosario. Contarles y compartir con ustedes que nuestra ciudad empezó a hablar del ambiente y de la gestión ambiental, del desarrollo del suelo, recién en el 2016, donde empezamos a buscar de alguna manera nuevas oportunidades después de una gran crisis que ha tenido la ciudad en materia de desarrollo, pero sobre todo en materia de desarrollo productivo. En todo este tiempo hemos pasado por distintos estadios que tienen que ver con la gestión. Escuchaba en los paneles de la mañana donde hablaban de salir de las áreas estancas, salir de los espacios estancos de gestión para empezar a entender la sustentabilidad o el ambiente de la transversalidad. Y justamente un poco es lo que quiero compartir esta experiencia. Hemos atravesado distintos desafíos que tienen que ver con prácticas ambientales, hasta que pudimos conformar, construir de manera participativa con toda la comunidad de nuestra ciudad, con todas las instituciones, con todos los actores sociales, lo que tuvo que ver con nuestro plan de gestión, con nuestro plan estratégico. Y en ese mismo sentido, empezar a desarrollar y pasar de un modelo de desarrollo urbano a la gestión de un ambiente integral o de un ambiente sustentable. Compartir con ustedes que esta agenda que tiene que ver con un modelo 360, con ese modelo circular, pensando en cómo nos vinculamos, en cómo nos tocamos, con cómo de alguna manera, de manera colaborativa, trabajamos con todo y cada uno de los actores de la ciudad. En este sentido, y fuimos logrando algunas herramientas que también las hemos conseguido de manera colaborativa y gracias al acompañamiento de ICLEI, nuestro inventario de gases invernadero, que es lo que nos dio las prioridades por donde empezar a trabajar en este plan de acción climática local que toca cinco grandes ejes de trabajo que tienen que ver con muchas de las cosas que se han ido hablando y que se han ido compartiendo en este tiempo del plenario, que tiene que ver con la matriz energética, que tiene que ver con el manejo y la gestión de los residuos, que tiene que ver con la movilidad sustentable y que tiene que ver con el cuidado y la mejora de todo lo que es el arbolado público y la forestación. Podríamos compartir proyectos y acciones de cada uno de estos ejes que nos han ido ayudando para mejorar ese desafío que nos daba ese inventario de gases, pero sobre todo cómo íbamos fijando como Estado, y acá se habló mucho del liderazgo que tenemos cada uno y cada una de los que hoy compartimos este Congreso. Y es muy difícil fijar un liderazgo sin planificación, es muy difícil fijar un liderazgo sin estadística, es muy difícil poder conducir y generar algunas articulaciones estratégicas con el privado. Se habló también de la vinculación con las industrias, con el sector privado, con el sector financiero. Ahora, ¿con qué tipo de Estado? ¿Sobre qué Estado vamos a trabajar ese esquema de regulación, de control o de articulación inteligente? Y acá pongo sobre eje la perspectiva, que sin lugar a dudas tiene que ser ambiental y tiene que estar fundada en la sustentabilidad. Esta Agenda 360 que les nombraba al principio tiene que ver también con reforzar algunos conceptos que están dados quizás en la imposibilidad de hacer desde los gobiernos locales por la falta de recursos. Y quienes tomamos decisiones y gobernamos, muchos, creo que la mayoría de los que estamos acá, lo primero que tenemos que resolver son problemas sin plata, sin recursos. Y cuando pensaba en esa Agenda 360, cuando la pensábamos junto a todo mi equipo de trabajo, pensábamos justamente en cómo generar esas articulaciones inteligentes, pero que además, esos asociativismos inteligentes, pero que además debían ser transparentes. Y pensábamos también cómo con esa gran cantidad de imposibilidades que muchas veces tenemos los gobiernos, esta necesidad de pararnos en el centro como Estado y empezar a ver con todos los actores que nos circunda, pero también empezar a hacer una búsqueda dentro de las áreas de gestión de gobierno. Y cuando hablaba de poder poner la sustentabilidad como ese eje central, tiene que ver con que cada acción, con que cada proyecto, con que cada iniciativa que el gobierno local enfrente lo haga con esta perspectiva ambiental, lo haga en función de este plan de acción climático, pero a la vez lo pueda ordenar y conducir con los otros actores de la comunidad para poder lograr una sinergia que sin lugar a duda nos va a ir dejando una ciudad un poco mejor o una ciudad con mejores indicadores ambientales. Los desafíos que tenemos en esta agenda que tiene que ver con garantizar 360, que tiene que ver con garantizar la paz social, que tiene que ver con garantizar la sana convivencia, pero también tiene que ver con vivir en un mejor ambiente, está dado sobre todo en la eficiencia y en la eficacia del manejo de los recursos, pero sobre todo de los que no hay, de los recursos que son del otro y que cada uno podemos poner sobre la mesa en función de trabajar en estas problemáticas. A su vez, lograr esa sinergia, como decía anteriormente, entre todos los actores públicos, privados, el tercer sector, también sumar a todos los subniveles que se viene hablando mucho en este Congreso, que tienen mucho para aportarnos y de hecho la experiencia que traemos con ICLEI desde la ciudad de Pérez está fundada en esto, ¿no? Cómo compartir, cómo generar una articulación colaborativa para poder lograr finalmente con este gran desafío que creo que tenemos todos en función de lograr un mejor hábitat y que tiene que ver el cambio cultural. ¿Cuánto estamos dispuestos cada uno de nosotros a cambiar para poder empezar a cambiar al otro? Y el último desafío tiene que ver con una línea de financiamiento y tiene que ver con las juventudes. Tiene que ver con esas juventudes que son inquietas, esas juventudes que sin lugar a dudas tienen que empezar a ser responsables del futuro que les toca. Porque claramente, como veíamos, el cambio climático nos viene poniendo cada vez desafíos más profundos, pero a la vez cada vez nos la empieza a hacer más difícil. Y uno piensa muchas veces qué ambiente le vamos a dejar a los jóvenes, qué ambiente les vamos a dejar a los niños. Y en este último desafío que lo estamos llevando adelante, nos pusimos una consigna. Primero, que sea participativo, por eso salimos a buscar en cada una de las instituciones de la ciudad a los jóvenes que tienen curiosidad, pero a la vez que tienen propuestas en materia de ambiente, para poder financiar esos proyectos y para que ellos empiecen a ser actores y partícipes fundamentales en este proceso y en este cambio cultural que viene. Y compartirle para cerrar una palabra que la sacamos de 3 palabras que son del idioma mapuche. Una palabra que es feula, que significa ahora, otra que se dice tufameu, que es aquí, y otra palabra que es keliuen, que es colaborar. De esas 3 palabras, nosotros las simplificamos en fetuque, y lo que hacemos es invitar a los jóvenes a fetuquear, para que el cambio sea ahora, aquí y de manera colaborativa. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much. All right. I would like to take the last 5 minutes and go around the audience. We're going to do, this is popcorn style, which means you can just stand up and say one thing and then sit back down. And thank you, panelists. You're free to join the audience now, and we'll get them started. Okay, so we're here to learn and exchange. And so anyone who has a question that they hope to get answered this week, stand up and say what the question is, and somebody can grab you later. Anyone who heard something so far in the Congress today, last night, in conversations that you've had so far, let us know. So anyone want to volunteer something that they'd like to learn, a resource they're looking for this week? Why did you come here this week? What are you looking for? What do you need? What questions do you have? All right. Thank you, Madison.
Hello, my name is Madison. Can you hear me? Excellent. I work for ICLEI USA on the membership team. And we at the membership team, I personally come from the state of Indiana, which is also very politically conservative, and we are very interested in supporting our members and navigating those environments. So I would love to talk to you about how we can do that, of course, in the most sensitive way possible, but at least start the conversation and connect. So anybody else who's interested, I also welcome that conversation.
Okay. Who else is looking for a resource, a buddy, somebody to go to happy hour with? Who would you like to connect with? What are your questions? What did you hear so far today that was of interest to you? All right, Andrea.
I just want to thank, I don't hear myself. I want to thank the political leaders who are here today. The staff has been acknowledged for our work. even though we're behind the scenes, but it's really your voices that are allowing us to do our work. So please continue. It's helping us. And while we're behind the scenes, you're the ones that are allowing us to do what we do. So thank you for being here and for speaking out for this work.
Great. Recognition is good. Okay. Commissioner.
Yeah, my question to the ICLEI staff or anyone in the audience, just give advice or legislation or ordinances that can help us work through loopholes around conservative states. I'll use Florida for an example, where now we're no longer allowed to put climate change in our documents. So how are we able to implement progressive environmental initiatives when we can't even address the problem? So that support would be very helpful, not only to me, but my staff.
All right. Looks like Madison's got a buddy here. Great. What other questions? Resources? What did you hear today that sparked some ideas? For me, I really felt like it was interesting to hear how diverse the communities themselves are, and then there's diversity among the communities, and so really building on that strength sounds great. All right.
Muchas gracias. Mi nombre es Analigia Mora Martínez. Soy la secretaria de Medio Ambiente de Medellín. ¿Ya me escuchan? Analigia Mora Martínez, secretaria de Medio Ambiente de la Alcaldía de Medellín, de Colombia. Me parece muy importante ahorita que estábamos hablando de inseguridad alimentaria. Medellín, que pues es una ciudad importante en el país, nosotros estamos por encima del 25%. Y también venimos en un enfoque de economía circular. Y yo creo que antes de hablar de economía circular tenemos que hablar, y lo viene haciendo nuestro alcalde Federico Gutiérrez, estamos hablando de cero hambre. Antes de hablar del reuso, del reciclaje, todas estas estrategias, me parece clave allí empezar también a incorporar la prioridad que es el ser humano y cómo desde estas estrategias de economía circular le apostamos a lo primero, que es la calidad de vida del ser humano. Entonces me parece inspirador y que también se genere la conversación en torno al cero hambre como una estrategia de economía circular. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. Yes, circular economy is one of the 5 pathways of ICLEI, so lots of resources there. I'm sure we have some circular sessions coming up. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Angie. I was actually quite impressed with our speaker regarding limited funds and not having money, and how do we actually progress action on climate and other sustainability issues when we're all pressed for tight budgets. I know the demands on our budgets are enormous. It just seems that year by year, local government is being asked to do more and more with a pretty much fixed budget. So how can we do more with the money we have and without money? And that's where that relationship between council, which has enormous resources to reach out and connect people who can help each other, is really important. I'd like to know how cities are doing that, using other means other than money to make things happen.
Great collaboration. All right. Who else? Somebody looking for a resource, has a question, has something to offer. Rob, I'm going to call on you.
I was thinking about this. I'm Rob Werner from Concord, New Hampshire, former city councilor, but also chair our energy committee in Concord, New Hampshire. I guess my comment goes to the relationship building. I think it's important to meet people where they are and try to then bring them along. And there's a lot of different strategies to do that. Not everybody is going to be resonant with climate change. Some people really want to save money. And if that's what they want to do, then you can start there and you can build relationships. But that's all very valuable as well, so in the work that we do. So.
Great, thank you. Motivations come in different ways and different forms, but we're working towards common goals, so that's great. All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, former President, Frank County.
I've got to say to all of you, it was a pleasure to listen to your points of view up here on the stage. The new mayors that and representatives that have come and see the importance of associating on these climate issues and how we work together and exchange ideas. I was also very happy to hear that Melbourne is back on, knowing that in the past we had some very strong members from your area, and the fact that they went away, but you have brought it back. So thank you for doing that, because a lot of good ideas come from other places. I'd like to think that I've got all the answers, but I discovered through the years I don't. And it's good to exchange with other people and find out what they know, what they're learning, how they're learning, what we can exchange, how I can support, give you ideas to grow your work. And I think that that's one of the strengths of ICLEI. ICLEI brings people together to exchange ideas, to plan together, to work together, to find solutions to big problems. I know that in my particular place in the United States, we have a little problem with other levels of government in our state. They don't seem to care about environment. They don't seem to care about the quality of water. They don't seem to care about some of the things that are being added through the, shall I say, the agricultural process and using corporate farming. Used to be family farms. Families would hold on to ground and hold it for generations. Now, in my state alone, over 70% of our agricultural ground, which is over 30 million acres, is farmed corporately. And their apparent hope is to improve their return on investment. They don't look 5 years or 10 years or 50 or 100 years down the road. They look at today. They want to know how's it working, and if adding more chemicals, adding other things that unfortunately do things to other parts of our resources, including water, we have to all think together and bring these thoughts together and get other levels of government to understand that we're not doing it just for today. We're doing it for, I would like to think, as a lot of Native Americans have expressed, we've got to think at least 7 generations out. How do the things that we do today affect not only and improve our situation today, but positively affect and have no negative effect on as far out as 7 generations. Thank you for all your work.
Yes, thank you. Excellent. All right. So, a force to be reckoned with. New ICLEI members, longtime ICLEI members, we appreciate all of you. I'd like to get a family photo with the folks who spoke and also the staff that supported them. Please come on up. Thank you all for your participation, and thanks for bearing with us with technical difficulties. And I think we're going to take a short break before the next session starts.